Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over all the information I could find about gearing up in V Rising. Now we don't have a ton of information on the gearing in the game, and actually most of the information comes from a single screenshot, but we can still glean a decent bit of information on statting and potential build creation from this bit of information we have. Now just a bit of basic information for V Rising if you've never heard about the game or don't understand some of the basics of the game. It will be at baseline a full loot open world PvP game, so when you die, all of or most of your loot drops on the ground. Think of something like Ark Survival Evolved, Myth of Empires, stuff like that, hardcore survival games. And then there will not be levels, classes, or races like you would expect from normal RPGs, but there will be other progression systems in the game to fill in those slots, and one of them is going to be the gearing. Now we do know that gear is going to have abilities on them, so these would play the role of temporary abilities, so you would have those abilities when you have that gear on, but if you lose that gear or take it off, you don't have that ability anymore. And they talked about this when talking about the blood system, which I went over in my last video. So V Rising is not a game with levels, classes, or races like one might expect in an RPG format. Vampires are powerful creatures who grow stronger over time. Variety exists in the forms of abilities that can be permanently unlocked combined with the more temporary abilities afforded by gear. And this is from one of the developer blogs for the game, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the only information I've seen on gear pieces actually having abilities on them. So it seems like gear may be much more important in this game than a lot of other survival games. Many other survival games, gear is usually much more simple because you can lose it so easily, and usually more stat sticks that just give you more protections, more armor, make you take less damage, stuff like that. But if they're giving actual abilities, gear could be much more valuable. And past that, all the other information I could find on gearing comes from one single screenshot. And this screenshot actually shows the equipment UI. Now, all of this stuff is work in progress. The UI is some of the stuff that's completed last, so the UI is going to be pretty rough. But this UI shows all the gear pieces you can equip. It shows all the different stats you can get in the game. And then it shows your general inventory where you would keep all of your items. So first off, the equipment shows a helm, a cloak, a chest piece, legs, boots, gloves, and an amulet. So unless they add additional pieces, we're going to have 7 gear pieces equipped in our equipment slots. Now weapons actually work quite a bit differently and much more like other survival games, because you can also see this in the screenshot that you have your action bars, and on the left side you have a 1 through 9, and these action bars are whatever you want to put on them. So this can be consumables, weapons, other activatable items you find, and things of that nature, things you would normally expect from other survival games. And this means that weapons won't be equipable items in the same way that armor pieces are, because you just keep them in your inventory, put them on that action bar, and you can switch between them anytime you want, including in combat very easily. Now I'm not sure if weapons themselves are going to have stats on them. I would assume they're probably going to have some amount of statting. Not sure if it's going to be shown in the stat panel or if it's just going to be more of a temporary stat that only affects that weapon. Now on the more interesting side, right next to the equipment slots, we actually get to see all of the stats you can possibly have in the game. Now I'm not sure if this is all of them. There's going to be additional ones that we can get that aren't shown here, but this does show a lot of stats. So first off, we have gear level. They're currently gear level 50 in the screenshot. Then we have max health at 431. We have physical power, spell power, physical crit chance, and physical crit damage, then spell crit chance and spell crit damage. Then we have movement speed. Then we get into resistances. So we have sun resistance rating, garlic resistance rating, fire resistance rating, holy resistance rating, and silver resistance rating. And also these are giving you the exact amounts that you have. Everything is a specific number except for the physical and spell critical hit chances and damages. Those go off of percentages. But even more than just giving you numbers, they also give you decimals. So physical power is 11.8, spell power is 43.4. This is much more old school type of statting information, because a lot of newer MMOs and RPGs are much more simplified to give you a much more easier way to read your stats, but a lot more of old school MMOs actually have statting like this, where you would see your stats in a very specific manner, giving you the exact amounts you have. And I'm definitely more of a fan of this system because it allows you to much more easily plan out builds, know what stats are doing what for you, allows you to test out how these different stats are going to work with different abilities or different items, stuff like that. I think it's much more interesting. And then something that's also more old school is the resistances. So we went over them. You have sun, garlic, fire, holy, and silver, and you have resistance ratings for these. And these are very clearly themed to resist things that are specifically for vampires. Sun resistance, garlic resistance, silver resistance fits the theming of the game, but also resistances aren't used near as much today in MMOs or RPGs as they were in the past. And I think this is pretty cool because this can allow you to even tailor make specific gear sets if you're going to try to go do something. Like we went over in the last video with the blood system, you could be hunting down a specific rare or boss. Maybe that specific V blood enemy you're hunting down is going to be a holy knight or something like that. You could get a gear set that has all holy resistance to have a much easier time fighting that enemy. Now that is pretty much all the information I could find about actual gearing itself. And also keep in mind, this is absolutely not the only progression system in the game. Like I went over in my last video, the blood system is actually another one of the major progression features in the game, which will allow you to obtain different buffs from drinking blood of different creatures, will allow you to hunt down bosses and rares to get permanent ability unlocks from those. And then I'm sure there will be other ways to also obtain abilities in the game, because also looking at the UI, even in the screenshot, you see on the right side, you actually have a bunch of different ability slots. So you have F that looks like what will be your blood drink ability. You have a left click, you have a spacebar ability, which is most likely going to be your movement ability. So like a flash or a roll or a dodge, something like that. You have R and G, which seem to be more base abilities. And then you have T, which in more recent screenshots has some more intricate design around that ability. So that seems to be pointing at being more of an ult, maybe on a longer cooldown. And then in other screenshots, right next to your left click, it also shows a Q and E ability, which just seem to be additional abilities. And all of these ability slots seem to be completely customizable with all the different abilities you would get in the game. So gearing is not the only progression system, but definitely seems like it's going to be one of the main ways to customize your character and get stronger. But that's pretty much all the information I want to go over for gearing and stats in V Rising. Now, like I mentioned before, the early access is coming out on May 17th on Steam. So it's not too long now to where we can get the game and try it out for ourselves, but I suspect this is the majority of the information we're going to have on gearing until the early access is released. So subscribe if you want to see more V Rising or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about the potential gearing in V Rising, and thanks for watching.